Hi guys, here with my wig of the day and a little update. My name is Michelle and I have breast cancer. I've been sharing my journey here with everyone, so thanks for stopping by. Appreciate if you would just follow, like, share, stick around to the end of the video. It'd be really, really great. I'm just trying to grow this network on here. I've already gotten so many new followers and friends, and I already follow a number of people that are going through similar situations to me, and it's been great to have, you know, that dialogue back and forth with people. Which brings me to kind of what I'm just going to talk about today. I haven't talked about it in a while. I figured I would kind of recap what it is that my diagnosis and what I've been going through and the game plan moving forward. I'll make it as quick as possible. So back in earlier 2025, I want to say it was March, I'm not really sure exactly when, I had my yearly exam and my yearly mammogram, and the mammogram didn't show anything, but that's normal. I had no lumps, I had nothing, but I have very dense breast tissue, so my doctor every year after my mammogram always sends me for a sonogram. So I went for the sonogram, and that came back with a shadow on it. No real discussion at that point of what it was or, you know, the size of it or anything like that, but there was a shadow. From that point, I went to get a biopsy done. The biopsy was done, and that came back as positive for cancer. So that was the end of, I got the biopsy results in the beginning of July. It was actually July 3rd. It was just that weekend of July 4th. And it came back as cancer. And it came back as triple positive oh my gosh, what is it? in the duct. Oh my gosh, the specific word is, I'm drawing a blank. Invasive inductal, that's what it is. In situ ductal cancer, carcinoma. Oh my gosh, I should have it in front of me. Which basically means that the cancer was in my duct. And at that point, it was, you know, we did scans, and it came back as a 7 centimeter mass that was in my right breast. So I discussed it. I started meeting with a breast surgeon, and we did genetic marker testing. We did an additional, we did an MRI on the breast, and everything came back and pointed to it and said that it was a 7 centimeter mass. And my genetic markers came back all negative, which was wonderful. It's kind of a bit of a shock, to be honest, because I have a lot of cancer, and just all sorts of cancer in my family on both my father's side and my mother's side, so you never know. So with that information, knowing it was a 7 centimeter, which is about a quarter of an inch, and knowing that I was negative on everything else, and they didn't see the MRIs did not show any other masses or anything else in either of my breasts, just this one mass, I moved forward and had a lumpectomy, and that was in September. However, when they went in to do the lumpectomy, they take out, as a matter of course, it's just what they do all the time. They don't just take the specific mass out. They take the mass out as well as some surrounding tissues, because what they want to do is what they call margins. So they take tissue further out, and then they test that tissue to see what's in that tissue, to see if there are any, you know, loose cancer cells or anything else, because they want to have clear margins. As long as that broad tissue sample is clean, then that means that they got all of the cancer. But what they also do when they go in for a lumpectomy is they take out, they run a tracer through your system, through your lymphatic system, and they remove the first, it could be one lymph node, it could be several lymph nodes, but wherever this tracer goes in, they remove at least a couple of lymph nodes. For me, they removed 2. So they removed that mass of tissue around the lump that existed, you know, extending out to get the margins, and then they removed 2 lymph nodes. And when everything came back, it turned out that I actually had 3 masses in my breast. The smallest one was 2 centimeters. The medium one was 8 centimeters. And the largest one was 32 centimeters. So that's an inch. That's about an inch. So it went from one small kind of 1/4 inch lump to 3, one of which was 32 centimeters. Plus, I had cancer cells in one of my lymph nodes. So with all of that, I needed to move on to chemo. So a chemo plan was put in place. So I started my chemo in October, with the plan being 6 treatments of chemo plus specific immunotherapy meds along with that chemo. And then once the 6 cycles of chemo are over, then the immunotherapy continues on. It's actually a full year of immunotherapy. So I'll be on that until October of 2026. My chemo is almost at an end. I actually have just one more session this upcoming Tuesday, the February 10th. Once that's done, I do have to do radiation. So I've already met with the radiologist. I have what the radiologist calls a planning meeting on February 17th to do measurements of me, to run a couple of tests, to, just to kind of develop a game plan. So I'm at the office that on the February the 17th, and they do these measurements, they do tests and all sorts of things. And then after that, then the radiologist and his team do their work, which is a series of tests and diagnostics and things like that to make to see what the strength of the laser needs to be. The radiation laser, because it's a very pointed laser, to see all different kinds of things, all different kinds of measurements on their side. And then that's probably about 2 weeks, and then I start radiation, and it'll be 3 weeks worth of radiation. It'll be Monday through Friday for 3 weeks. So I'm looking at that starting possibly in March. But I just really wanted to go back and recap what it is, like how I got here, what my diagnosis was. It was definitely a shock, and there were different moments along the way of, when I first got the sonogram, the theory, the doctor was like, well, it could just be, it could be fatty tissue. It could be a fibroid. It could be, it could just be, just a shadow that the machine, just reacted weirdly and didn't see anything. It could be negative. It might be this, it might be that. So you have kind of in the back of your head, well, maybe it's nothing, but realistically knowing it's probably something, but you still like, okay, maybe it's nothing. So then I remember when I went for the biopsy that day, thinking, like laying on the table and still somewhat thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe it's not a real thing. Maybe it's not a real thing. But then when that day they do another sonogram, and once the tech did that sonogram, and she specifically saw the same exact shadow in the same exact spot that the original tech saw, then it's like, okay, it's real. There's actually something there. This was not machine error. This was an actual thing. Shit. So that was like one of those moments of, all right, it's real. This is real. But still, you're like, well, it could come back negative. It could still be fatty tissue. It could still be a fibroid. It could still be something else, anything, a slew of things other than cancer. And then the result comes back and it's cancer. You're like, oh, God damn it. You hope that it's not, but it is. And then you deal with that moment as it comes on. And then the next thing is, well, the type of cancer. So mine is triple positive. The eye of the invasive, that's the word. Oh my God. Invasive ductal carcinoma. Which means that it's not just within the duct, that it kind of like spread outside of that it got outside of the duct a little bit. That's what that means. If it's non-invasive, then it just stayed within the duct. But mine, even just that one mass, that 1 7-centimeter mass, was kind of like spilled outside the duct a little bit. But so triple positive, HER2 positive, all of these things just mean it. What that does is that impacts how it's going to be treated and the sensitivity that the actual cells have to certain treatments and to, triple positive means it's progesterone and estrogen and HER2 positive cancer. That's what triple positive means. And that's what I had. So that means that it's sensitive to estrogen, progesterone. You know what, to be honest, I don't really know what the HER2 positive thing is. It's another type of, just a type of cancer. But then we developed the plan to do the chemo and all the other stuff. I currently, I did, after we do chemo and before you start, after the lumpectomy and before you start chemo, you do go for body scans. So, and you could do either a PET scan, which does your entire body, head to toe, all in one scan, or you could do what I did, which was a CAT scan and a bone scan, which does the same things. It's just 2 different scans. So that looks, it completely goes through your whole body, looks inside your tissue, your bones, and looks for other possible masses. Again, because I had that lymph node with the cancer cells in it, that means that theoretically the cancer could have gotten to the rest of my body because the lymph node is the first, it's like the gateway to the rest of your body. So you do these the CAT scan and the bone scan, and mine came back clear. So really the lumpectomy got all of the lumps, the lymph node, it was just the one that had cells in it. So everything was removed from my body that on the surface had any sort of cancer in it. So I currently don't have active cancer in my body, but the chemo is there we're doing the chemo to prevent, to stop it potentially from coming back, because breast cancer has a high rate of recurring. And then also, again, because that lymph node, there could be one cancer cell that's in the body somewhere, and it's possible that the scan didn't pick it up. So the chemo is to take care of those kinds of things. And then the radiation is going to go in, and it's very pointed to the exact area where the lumps were in my breast. So again, it's my right breast. For me, it was underneath. So from the bottom up, like kind of behind the nipple, that general direction. So that's where my issues were. So the radiation is going to go into that area and really just, again, it's a matter of prevention and just, making sure that there's really nothing left in there that could potentially grow again once the treatment is stopped. So that brings us up to date. So yeah, I got my girl on today. Her bangs are settling in nicely. I kind of like how these are sitting here. I'm not going to trim her up. I like how these have landed. I didn't like them when I first was starting to wear this one, but I like her now. So, yeah. And, the more that I wear her, the more she relaxes and just is kind of more natural. So, yeah. All right. So that's it, guys. Take care. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. And, don't forget to like, share, follow, all the stuff. Take care.